Okay, we're going to demo a little bit of LabView. I want to kind of talk about loops and case structure in this. So let's start out with creating a for loop. So I'm going to go under here to structures. I'm going to go to for loop. I'm going to place the for loop here. Now you'll see I have this label here that says n for loop count. So I'm going to create a numeric control, and I want that numeric control, so I want to wire it up to this loop counter, and I'll call this loop number. So this is basically the number of times the loop's going to run. If you look at this and you see that little red dot, I have a data mismatch here. I need to right click on my orange icon. I go to representation. I think this is I32 data type. So I do that and that cleans that up. This basically only lets me put whole numbers in because you can't have the code run half of a loop. So this I here is the index of the loop. So I'm going to create a place to display that index. So I'll call this index. Same deal there. I need to make it a I32 as well. And I'm going to wire I into the index. So let's see. If we run the code just as is, nothing happens. Okay, well, let's say I want to run the loop number. Let's say I want to run this loop 100 times. Whoops, instead of that. So let me change this to 100 and we'll run the code. Okay, so the index just went, it looked immediately like it went to 99. What's happening is when I run this, this code's executing as fast as it can. I'm going to put a wait timer in here, so this will be a wait timer. The wait timer, I'm going to place it in this loop so it slows this loop down. Wait timer. This is going to be in milliseconds. So this tells me how many milliseconds to wait. So 1,000 milliseconds. I think this representation is U32 maybe. Let's see. Yeah, if I have it, let's see. I think if I change it to I32, I get the little red dot there. So I think the wait timer is U32. Okay, so let me put a little bit of wait time in there. Let's say 50 milliseconds, and then count up to 100. So we can see now that the numbers are running from 0 up to 99. So the loop runs 100 times. It's just that, here, let's run it only 10 times, and let's increase the wait time a bit more so that we can see the first time. So the initial one starts at 0 up through 9. So 0 up through 9. So once my loop hits the number, basically once it runs 10 times, 0 through 9, then this for loop stops. So a for loop, you tell it how many times you want it to run, and it'll execute that many times. Okay, let's say I don't like these 0 through 9. I want these to be 1 through 10. What you can do is down here we can place a increment in there, which basically it'll add 1 to the loop timer. So the loop timer comes out, we add 1 to it. So instead of 0 to 9, it should say 1 to 10 now. And so now we go 1 to 10, so it runs 10 times. Okay, so this is a quick little bit of code. Let's say I want this thing instead of just running, having to press the run button each time. Let's say I just want it to keep cycling. So I want to start over. This is where we can place a while loop around our for loop. So the while loop needs a stop condition. So the while loop's going to just keep doing this till a stop condition's met. This is where we could use a stop button. Let's put it over here. And so now since the for loop is inside the while loop, the for loop will run, and then it'll run again because it's inside the while loop, and the while loop will keep cycling until I press the stop button. So if we run this, for loop goes up to 10, cycles back to 1 through 10, cycles back 1 through 10. When I hit the stop button here, that'll tell the for loop that the next time it gets done here, it needs to stop. So I'll press the stop button, so now it's queued to stop, and it stops. So that's a little bit about how the while loop runs. The while loop will run however many times you tell it to. It's based on what number you plug in up here. A for loop will will run the number of times you tell it to. That's what's plugged in up here. A while loop will run until a stop condition is met, and we're using a stop button to be the stop condition. We're using this wait timer to slow stuff down. We can see if we get rid of that wait timer, so let me just Control X to cut it, and let's run the code without it. You'll see it just, it's running, it's just cycling through as fast as the machine can go, and we can't see that. So the wait timer is a nice thing sometimes to use to slow stuff down, where you can see what's happening. Let's see here. Let's say that while this loop runs, every time the index is the number 2, I want something to tell me that the number is 2. Well, let's see. Let's make a case structure. So we've got this thing here. It's a case structure. And what a case structure does is you can wire something into it. Depending on what gets wired into it, this input here will change. So let's see here. Let's use a local variable. So I'm going to go here to structures, get a local variable. I'm going to change it to read. I'm going to link it back to this index. So basically this index now runs to here. I'm going to feed that into my case structure. And so I get case 0 and 1. You know what? I don't want to do this. Just kidding. Let's see here. Let's place the case structure down, because I wanted something to trigger, say, when the number is 2. So let me place a case structure down. I still want this thing to be true, false. This index, I want to see while the index is equal to, whenever the index is equal to 2, so let's put equal. So if your index happens to equal the number 2, I want that to trigger the true case in the case structure. And what I want that to do is I'm going to look over here to string. I want the words the number is 2 to appear in the string. And otherwise, I want the words the number is not 2 to appear. So let's see here, string constant. Let's say we'll type in the number is 2. We'll wire that to the string. And then I have to set the false case, because when the index is true, it'll trigger the true case. If the index is not equal to true, it'll trigger the false case. And the false case we'll say is the number is not 2. Okay, so let's run the code and see what happens. What should happen is whenever the index is 2, we should see this string fire here and say the number is 2, and if the index is a different number, it should say the number is not 2. So the number is not 2. Wow, it's not working at all. That's good. Okay. How did I mess that up? Try one more time. Okay, let's see here. Well, maybe it doesn't like that I've done this with the local variable. Let's try to branch the index off to there. Oh, it's really not liking that. Tunnel mode, let's put last value. That seems things maybe are better. Let's see. Well, that's just not working out for me, is it? Is it a data type mismatch, maybe? Oh, I bet that since this is outside the for loop, it's not executing it there. Okay, let's bring that back in the for loop. That's probably what it is. Okay, so I had that running in the wrong loop. So let's place this back inside the for loop, and let's branch off to it now. I could reshoot this video since I messed it up, but I don't know, maybe. There we go. So everything, when the index is 2, it jumps. We can see it jumps to the number is not 2. Yeah, I guess if it's executing inside the for loop here, and then you have something outside of the for loop, it's still cycling through the for loop over and over again, so it's not gonna trigger the thing outside of the for loop. Or it's that the for loop runs through the for loop, and then when it gets done with the for loop running once, it passes that value, which would have been a 10. It passes that over to the case structure, and the case structure didn't see it. So basically, this needed to be pulled inside of the for loop. I think I'll leave the me messing it up. I'll just leave that in there because I don't know. It's good to see how to maybe keep after something when you mess it up. Because with these code stuff, as we start working on more and more complicated stuff, that is going to be something that's going to happen. Is you'll want your code to do something and it doesn't do it, and so we don't just give up on it. We'll just keep after it, and eventually we will figure it out and it'll work. So we'll stop there now that we got our little thing to work. So kind of wrapping up, the while loop will run until a true condition is fed down here, which we'll give it by the stop button. The loop here, this for loop, will run the number of times you tell it, so you can give it a number there, and that'll tell the for loop how many times to run. The case structure is true false, and it will look for a condition to be met. In our case, the condition is equal to 2, and this wiring is really bad here. This is not a very pretty way of doing this. So the wiring here is equal to 2, and so whenever the wiring says it's equal to true, it'll send the true case along, and if it's not a number equal to true, it will send the false case along. So we got while loop here, for loop here, and in here we got our case structure. So we'll stop there, say that's got our thing working. And that's a quick little demo about some loops and case structure stuff on LabView.